Good stewards know Jesus can't stand hypocrites. Nonetheless, he loves and forgives all, including hypocrites. He just hopes they will accept his love and forgiveness. In our gospel passage today, Jesus is once again having a dust-up with the Pharisees. Why? Well, because Jesus can't stand what the Pharisees do. They have created hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of rules. They created them. They followed them. And they held in contempt anyone who did not follow their rules. They looked down on them. They castigated those who didn't follow their rules, including Jesus. And Jesus says, guys, don't you understand? You're hypocrites. You say you're holy, but you say you're holy because you follow the rules. But what you don't understand is rules, all rules, no exceptions. Rules are tools. That's all they are. They aren't the end result. Rules are tools, and if we use in this life rules as tools well, what we'll do with those rules, we will build love. And when we create all these rules, what we do is we separate each other. The Pharisees used their rules to build walls between themselves and everyone else. And they liked it because they thought they were hot stuff. Well, Jesus didn't like what they were doing because they were, in fact, holding everyone else in contempt. Flannery O'Connor is a wonderful Southern writer. She wrote a lot of short stories. They almost all had spiritual content, and they were all beautifully written with great messages. And one of them is called Parker's Back. O.E. Parker and his wife Sarah Ruth lived in rural South. They lived in a shack. It was run down, dilapidated. O.E., kind of lazy, kind of shiftless, drank quite a bit, never followed the rules. Sarah Ruth, on the other hand, she followed every rule. And she, like the Pharisees, held everyone in contempt who did not, including O.E. Well, O.E. wanted his wife's acceptance. O.E. was a man who had tattoos all over his body. So he went out one day, came back, had a brand new tattoo. It was his biggest tattoo. It covered his back. It was the face of Jesus. And proudly, O.E. pulled off his tee and showed his back to his wife. And Sarah Ruth snarled. She sneered. She didn't say a word, but she was in utter contempt of her husband. And O.E. says, Sarah Ruth, don't you see? It's the face of God. And Sarah Ruth says, no, it's not. God's a spirit. No one knows what his face looks like. It's blasphemy. O.E. was crushed. Sarah Ruth grabbed a blunt instrument and she began beating O.E.'s back. Kept beating it and beating it and beating it harder and harder. Welts all over his back, blood pouring out of his back. And of course, his back is now a tattoo of the face of Jesus. So Jesus' face is filled with welts. It's bleeding. And of course, the symbolism is clear. Sarah Ruth is acting like the Pharisees who sent Jesus Christ to the cross. Sarah Ruth has her rules, and her rules have resulted, just like with the Pharisees, in her building a wall around herself, a wall of self-righteousness. She can't have a relationship because she's got this wall between her and everyone else. All of these rules. Oh, he takes the beating. Doesn't say a word. But finally, he gets up, walks out of the shack, and goes and stands under a pecan tree. Sarah Ruth comes to the door and looks at him, and O.E. is crying. Now, here's the hard part. Rules are good if we use them to build love. That's what Jesus says. All life is about relationship. We can't build walls between us and others, because if we do, we can't have relationship. And the rules that we get are just tools to help us build that relationship, and in building that relationship, to have love in our lives. To love all, as Jesus says, all, including our enemies. And how do we love? By those two very, very hard rules of life that Jesus gives us that I mention so frequently. Serve. The Pharisees didn't serve. They wanted to be served. Be last and not first, Jesus says. The Pharisees didn't want to be last. No, indeed, they wanted to be first. And in doing so, they separated themselves from everyone else. Now, here's the really hard part for me. We're doing that, I believe, in our culture here in America today. Democrats want to build a better country. Republicans want to build a better country. They have different rules on how to do that. And we've gotten to a point where we no longer see people, we no longer try to build loving relationships, we just see the rules. We didn't used to do that. When I was a young man, Republicans and Democrats respected each other as people. They had different rules on how to get where both of them wanted to go, and where both of them wanted to go then and now is still the same place, a better country. But today we're acting like, in my opinion, Pharisees. We're saying, it's my way or the highway. If you don't follow my rules, to hell with you. We need to stop that. Now, I began the homily, as I normally do, this time with a very lengthy bumper sticker saying, Jesus doesn't dislike, no, he doesn't not love the Pharisees and their self-righteous ways. He loves the Pharisees. What he can't stand is their self-righteous ways. And when we say our rules are the only rules and no one else can use my rules, then what we're doing is we're building a wall between us and everyone else. And Jesus can't get through that wall, and we can't get through the wall to Jesus. We can't get to his love. We can't get to his forgiveness. It had to tear Jesus to pieces, knowing that he couldn't get through to the Pharisees, because they had built that wall between him and them. So, back to O.E. and Sarah Ruth. I could say, look, all of us, let's do some spiritual homework and determine who are we more like, O.E. or Sarah Ruth. Got some value to it. But the reality is we don't want to be like either Sarah Ruth or O.E. O.E.'s in a better position because, like the sinners who knew they were sinners and accepted they were sinners in Jesus' time, they had no walls around them. They could accept Jesus' love and forgiveness. But we want to be better than that. We want to be people who actively seek out to love others. We can disagree, and should, about ways to get there, about the rules. But we should always remember rules are just tools to build love. Why we're here is to learn how to love. It's the only thing Jesus is going to ask us when we get to the pearly gates. He's not going to ask us what our rules were. He's not even going to ask us what accomplishments we had. He's only going to ask, did you love? So, my sisters and brothers, we are all called to be good stewards. And good stewards know Jesus can't stand self-righteousness. Can't stand self-righteousness. But he loves and forgives all, including the self-righteous. He just hopes they're willing to accept his love and forgiveness, that they can get through that wall that they have built around themselves.